Thank you all for being here today, so we can practice together. Um, I want to talk today about practice, and specifically, I want to talk about what I consider is one of the most important aspects of practice in my life, and my life is my practice, and that's the Great Heart Way. Okay, the Great Heart Way in practice. Well, hopefully, this will help us all have a kind of a deeper appreciation for Great Heart Way. And I'll share sort of my experience with Great Heart Way practice. It's been a profound part of my life for a number of years. You know, it was developed back in about 2006, 2007 by our teachers, by the Roshis. And there was a recognition by them that in Zen, we have a lot of focus on concentrated practice, things like mu, sound of one hand, you know, various koans that some of us have worked on. Very concentrated, build our ability to be focused, not be scattered with our mind, not be jerked around so much by our mind. But there wasn't a lot of attention historically in Zen tradition to appreciating and experiencing our feelings. I've even heard stories of Zen teachers that said, you know, you really don't need to focus on the feelings because our koan practice will take care of that. It'll take care of that, right? And in my experience, when Great Heart was created, the book came out, I think, in 2007. I had been practicing with koans for about 6 years or so at that time. And it was very helpful. And it gave me clarity and a different way of experiencing the here and now reality. So it was extremely helpful and continued to be a very helpful part of my practice. At the same time, for me, something seemed out of kilter in my practice. Something seemed to be at dis-ease for me, right? It just wasn't quite right. I still felt anxious. I still felt on edge at times about different things, and I didn't quite get why that was. And I had this concept in my mind that after having practiced for several years, as I had, that a lot of that stuff would go away. And that was one of the reasons I got into Zen in the first place, was I was having some of those kind of challenges, and I wanted that to go away. And by the way, if you want to interrupt me in this talk, please do. Okay, you don't have to wait till the end for questions. I just want you to get something out of this, okay? Rather than me just flapping my gums, talking about stuff, okay? I want this to be real. So if you have real life issues that you want to share, or you can, you know, it doesn't have to be anything particularly intimate. It can be, I don't, you know, do what you want, but to ask away, if you think this seems to, you know, I don't buy into all this stuff he's saying, whatever. Let me know, okay? Because the whole purpose of this is to be helpful in our practice. We're a sangha. We work together. We practice together. We rub up against each other and help, you know, file down our edges. So let's be real about it, okay? I'll go back to my talk now. Anyway, but just raise your hand if you want to talk. So anyway, something wasn't quite right for me, right? And I didn't quite get it, what it was. So I started hearing about the Great Heart practice, but I was so focused on my koan study. I was very rigorous about it. I was very, I just kept at it. I struggled with koans. I worked on koans at certain times for a couple of years, or same koan. So I just hung in there and kept working with them. And I wanted to keep going on that. And so I didn't go to some of the earlier workshops on Great Heart Way or retreats. I just kept focused on my koan practice for probably those kind of reasons I was just sharing. So, but anyway, at some point, because of the struggles I was having, I thought, I want to give this a shot. And I'd read the Great Heart Way book. I talked to people who'd been in retreats a little bit. And in a conversation I had about somebody that I just was talking to right at the beginning of this first Great Heart retreat that I went to, we were asking each other about our practice. And he said, "What's your practice?" And I said, "Oh, my practice is, it's koans. I work with koans." And I said, "How about you?" And this, by the way, this student is many, many years ago, left. So not violating any confidence here. But then he said, well, my practice is Great Heart Way. And that was what I was at this retreat with him, this workshop. So I go, okay. And he said, yeah, I want to get in touch with my feelings. I don't really appreciate and receive my feelings. I just kind of push them away. And he said, what about you? And I'm like, actually, that's not me. I'm one of those guys. I've always like cried at movies. I'm in touch with my emotions, things like that, feelings. So that's one of the reasons up until now I've just kind of stayed with my path around koans, because I don't really have that issue. Well, I mean, I was totally full of crap, right? I mean, that's not. I was so out of touch with my feelings that I didn't know that I wasn't in touch with my feelings. And I'd had this ability to, if you want to call it an ability, to push away my feelings, push away experiencing of life that I otherwise could have had, because it didn't fit my model of what I thought I needed to be as a Zen student and just as a person in general, and a model I'd had at some level my whole life, probably from the time I was, a couple of years old or something. I don't know. So, but anyway, when I did this workshop, a couple of things happened. First of all, one of the things that we focused on what in some circles is called voice dialogue. And I know some of you have worked on voice dialogue, and it's this notion of the fact that we have, and this I'm not a therapist, so bear with me on my terminology, but hopefully it makes sense. We have subpersonalities. So we might have a subpersonality of a judge, or we call it, or in voice dialogue it's referred to as a voice of the judge. So what does the judge do? Judges things. So that's part of what I am. Might have another part of my personality, which is the narcissist. So I'm really concerned about me and me getting my fair share, and I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I want to look a certain way, all this kind of stuff. I might, and so in the workshop we do things like, we were sitting together as a group, and Roshi would say, or one of the Roshis would say, but I think on this particular day it was Shishin. I know it was Shishin Roshi. He'd say, okay, let's be the loser. Okay, and we'd adjust our chairs, and all of a sudden we'd be a loser. And then he'd start asking us questions about what's it like to be a loser. And I'd say, if I was called on, I'd say, I just do a crummy job with stuff. I can't amount to anything. I'm this, that, whatever. Or if I was a judge, I'd say my job is to judge things, whatever. Or if I was to, whatever. You get the idea. These different voices, and so. We came to a voice that was the voice of, I think he described it as like the voice of our child, our inner child, right? And so I raised my hand. I said, okay, I'll do that one. So he said, who are you? I said, I'm a 5-year-old child. And then he started asking me questions, right? And as he asked me questions, and as the 5-year-old child, I explained the fact that I had been ignored. I'd been ignored my whole life, and that I couldn't get the attention of Yugen. Couldn't get the attention of Yugen, and it was what was that like? Well, it was super difficult for me, and I explained all this. And as I was doing this, and as I began to really experience my feelings as a 5-year-old child, I just started having tears coming down my face. In fact, even talking about it now, it's hard for me to talk about. Just this stuff coming down, and I'm like, oh my God, I ignored a big part of what I am for all these years. Not only when I was 5 years old, but as whatever I was at the time, a 50-year-old or something, right? And I just had this deep sadness. And I just wanted to give that 5-year-old boy a big hug and tell him how much I loved him. And I did that in the voice dialogue session. Anyway, why do I bring that up? Well, I bring it up because it was a real life experience I had, but it began to show me this Great Heart Way was the real deal for me. it was something I needed to really explore more and practice with. It wasn't an add-on to my practice. It's like, well, I've got koan study, and that's my real practice, and I'm going to just play with Great Heart Way too. It became obvious to me that there was some fundamental stuff going on in my life, in the way I experienced reality, that I was not seeing clearly at all, that I was pushing aside, that I was sticking in the basement, whatever you want to call it. And this example with the 5-year-old child, that brought it to life for me. That brought it to life for me. And it was really like, oh my God, wake up, wake up. I'm not, doing, I'm not vulnerable or in touch with things that I want to be more vulnerable and in touch with going forward. So that was my experience there. And we did exercises where we would sit, particularly after some of these voice dialogue sessions, things would come up, not just for me, but for other people. I'm sure for all of us, they came up to a certain extent. So we'd go sit, and we'd sit with them, and we wouldn't have an agenda. We just sit with them. We just experience our feelings, right? And whatever came up, and we didn't have to fix anything. In one sense, we weren't broken, even though I felt broken. I felt broken at that moment when I was going through this exercise as being the 5-year-old child. But in another sense, we're not broken, but we could just experience deeply whatever came up. We didn't have to try to adjust it or fix it per se. And as these feelings, as we're getting in touch with our feelings, sometimes, not necessarily for everybody, not every time we sit, but an image might come up. And this image might be some recollection of some experiencing we did as a child, maybe, a young child, very likely, that we had suppressed and didn't realize it was going on. And sometimes that could be very helpful to see that. And that pointed to, in certain cases, and this is where I think the Great Heart Way is so powerful, is it not only deals with feelings, but by accepting the feelings that we have, not pushing them away. There were no bad feelings, there were just feelings. It could point the way to a core belief that we have. Okay? And what's a core belief? Well, we have a little bit of a feel for that, I think, but that's this idea of some belief that I took on as a very young person, as a kid, baby, whatever, not baby necessarily, but like it could be like a couple-year-old kid or something. And I began to realize maybe I got yelled at by one of my parents or by somebody, a babysitter, who knows what, but a parent would be a best example because I loved my parents. And maybe I screwed something up from their perception. Maybe they were tired. Who knows? It doesn't make any difference. But they say, man, what an idiot. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's crazy, right? And so I'd hear something, you'd hear something when you were being raised by this parent you loved, and you incorporated it, and all of a sudden it kind of stuck. It made sense. You loved your parents. They fed you, they clothed you, they held you, whatever they did or didn't do, for that matter. Not all of us had two Buddhas as parents, probably. Well, I guess we could say they're all Buddhas, but you get the idea. So anyway, so we incorporate some of these things and think, I'm just not very good at stuff. I'm not as smart as I should be, right? I'm not as calm as I should be. I'm too reactive. I'm not deserving. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough, whatever it is. And these kind of, every human being, I got to think, would have a few of these beliefs, these kind of core beliefs. And one of the issues is we don't even know we have them, right? Hard to practice with them when you don't know you have them. Well, like, take me, for example. I told that individual at that seminar, that workshop on Great Heart, I'm in touch with my emotions. I'm in touch with my feelings, right? All this stuff. I don't have that issue. Well, of course I did have that issue. And of course I still deal with those issues now, still, but I can say they decrease as far as their influence in my life. They haven't gone away, but through this practice, and I'm not saying all from Great Heart practice by any stretch. I'm not saying all from koan practice. I'm not saying all from therapy that I've gone through at times through my life, but collectively, you begin to get more of a feel for some of these things and some of these core beliefs. And if to the extent I don't have a feel for my core beliefs, in my experience, I'm getting jerked around by them and I don't even know that's what's happening. I just think that's what I am. And it doesn't have to be. But when I begin to see the core beliefs more by doing this great art practice, and I'll come back to how we do that more in a moment. But as I do it, then all of a sudden the I get more free and less constrained, less contracted, less jerked around by things I don't understand, and that I'm, like I said, I felt off kilter. Well, I was off kilter because I had some of these beliefs that I didn't know I had that were running in large part my life, and they were continuing to run my life even as I was doing my koan practice. Now, again, the koan practice was super valuable. It was very, very clarifying. It was really helpful as far as seeing more and more the nature of reality. But what I was having issues with was in my day-to-day interactions, in the kind of my life, getting up in the morning, doing my sitting, going to work, having an argument with my boss, having a disagreement with my partner, having a fallout with a friend, having a wonderful experience with a friend, having a wonderful experience with my boss, all this stuff that was happening in my life day in, day out, right? That was all coming at me. That was coming at me, and it wasn't coming at me in a disjointed fashion. It was coming at me just now, full bore in life. It wasn't this linear thing of the past and the now and the future that I kind of constructed in my mind, even though I was doing this koan practice. My life was coming at me now, here, now, all the time. And I say it was just, like drinking from a fire hose, right? And when these things would come up, like challenges in my life and things, it was coming at me so fast. I wanted to escape. I wanted to get out. And again, maybe I'm going to go swimming. I'm going to go running. I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. Nothing wrong with swimming and running. I like doing both of those things. But I was doing it to get away from the here now reality. Okay. Not beating myself up over it. It's just reality. That's what I did. Okay. So the Great Heart Way practice helped me to see more and more, what I was doing, and helped me begin, and I say begin to uncover some of my these core beliefs that were affecting me a little bit like the puppet master, and I was on the string of things, and I wasn't experiencing that life of freedom and compassion. I was experiencing, I was at times, I thought, but I was also experiencing constriction and shame, okay, a lot of the time too, through some of these things, right? So, as I mentioned, core beliefs a big deal, and I think that Great Heart's a great way to do it. But how, to address some of these things. But how do we do? We're not going to be in workshops all the time, and I say life's coming at us really fast. It's really not linear. It's not what Brian Greene referred to as a physicist as it's not an arrow of time. It's not moving like this. It's just here. It's just always here. Boom, boom, boom. So how do we deal with these things when so much is happening to us and so much to deal with? And how do we deal with all those things with this Great Heart practice? As I say, we can't always have the luxury of being in a workshop with a bunch of other very sensitive, caring people that are helping us. That's great to do, but we can't always be doing that. So first of all, one thing about this Great Heart practice, it is extremely integrated into our life. Okay, it's not fragmented. So one of the things I was doing in my practice that was not too helpful, but I didn't know I was doing it, was I was taking the whole, this here now reality that just is, right? The thusness, whatever we want to call it. And I was fragmenting it. I was breaking it up into little pieces. So let me go back to this simple example, okay? This is sort of my day in certain respects right now. I'll get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll sit, I'll walk the dogs, I'll take a shower, I'll make breakfast, I'll, have my lunch, go to work, whatever. Get there, know that when I get there, I got to go see a patient, or I've got to do whatever I need to do. And there's a bunch of stuff that I got to do, right? Oh, and I got to get gas on the way because my truck's low on gas and all these kind of things. So as I'm doing that, I'm creating this linear flow of events, in my life, right? And one of the things is my meditation practice, my sitting, because I said when I get up in the morning, I do that, right? But maybe I don't get to do that for whatever reason. I got to do it later in the day. Oh, whoa, whoa, that's another thing, right? So I'm even conceptualizing my sitting. Okay, that's crazy, right? I mean, when I'm sitting, and we've all experienced, whether we're doing shikantaza, or we're doing koan study, whatever we're doing, we're having periods where we can experience this here now reality. We've had those experiences, and we get little glimpses. Maybe we have big glimpses, whatever. But I was even conceptualizing that thing to where it's like, oh yeah, well then I got to sit and I got to do this, and right. So instead of really being okay with the fire hose that was my life, of what was coming at in the here now reality all the time. Okay, that's what I was. That's what I was trying to do. So anyway, in the Great Heart practice, I say it's incredibly integrated to life. And I'm going to use the term life and practice interchangeably here, because with Great Heart, everything that comes up that I'm challenged with today, this moment, whatever, it's all integrated into this moment. That's it. That's all grist for the mill. So when I have a challenge, I feel like I'm a little overwhelmed, I'm drowning a little bit, there's too much to be done at work, whatever, I can really feel that. Okay, I can really feel that, and I can also sometimes take a chance, even when this stuff's really coming at me, to close the door a little bit to my office and deeply, deeply experience my mind running circles about whatever it is that's challenging, and then begin to feel this deeply, what my body, because our practice, as we all know, it's a body-centered practice, right? So in my body, what am I feeling right now? The tingling, the shakiness, the whatever it is that I'm feeling, and really experience it. And you say, well, yeah, how are you going to do that at work? You've got all these things going on. You've already said, or you don't have to do this necessarily for a really long time. If you can do this for a minute and really get into it, or a couple of minutes, that can be huge, right? Really huge. And so you can experience it. And then at some point, see, it's not that we're experiencing this stuff. It's that we are this stuff. It's not an experience we have, it's experiencing. It's experiencing. That's what we are. We're this experiencing. Okay? So we feel that in our bone marrow, right? Okay? And it's not easy at all. It's really hard. It's really hard. And I can't do it all the time. Okay. Sometimes it's too much. I do the best I can. And sometimes I can stay with it. Absolutely. I can just stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. And some of those feelings begin to transform. That's not the purpose of it, though. I can't, I don't want to misrepresent and say, oh, yeah, if I really do this, I'm going to get this great carrot at the end. Okay. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be so wonderful in the way I can deal with life, and I'll be the Dr. Spock of handling any situation, and I'm not going to react, blah, blah, blah. No, the purpose to me, anyway, if there's a purpose, would be the closest thing I could say to the purpose would be living my life. That's it. Not pushing it away. Really, really living this life. Really, really experiencing this life. Okay? That to me is the closest thing to a purpose. And that's what I want to do in my practice anyway. I just want to I want to have it take a shot. I want to be able to experience this life. I'm not going to live very long, right? I might die before I get done with this talk. Who knows? I don't know. But maybe I'll live another 15 years. That could be too. But the point is, I'm going to die in the present moment, right? And I'll probably, if I have my cognitive faculties very much at the time, I probably think that'd be nice to live a little bit longer. But I won't. I'm going to die when I die, and that'll be whatever the time it is. Okay. So I don't want to miss out on stuff, right? I don't want to miss out on stuff. I want to experience these things, and I want to be able to really be able to think that I'm living this. I'm experiencing, and again, I'm putting these words in here, so bear with me. But the concept, if to go back to being conceptual for a second, would be that that I would have the ability to experience, warts and all, if there's such a thing, my life. the struggles, the challenges, my illness. Maybe at some point in my life, I start getting dementia, then I can be with that as that's happening, right? Maybe at some point in my life, I get bone cancer. I'm in a lot of pain. Deal with that. Maybe at some point in my life, I'm just overwhelmed by so much stuff going on, right? We got the pandemic. We've got Delta variant. We've got people that are getting in fights in airplanes because they're kind of overrun. All this stuff going on. Also, all kinds of wonderful, amazing, beautiful things going on all the time too. I want to be there for that too. Okay, it's not an exercise in being miserable. It's an exercise of living, right? It's an exercise in freedom. Okay, like I said, I don't do this stuff all the time. You all know me. Give me a break. I got my plenty of challenges, but I'm talking about this today because it's had a profound impact on my life and on my compassion for everybody else in this life, right? Instead of this person that was so detached that I didn't even think I had any issues with my feelings and all that. Well, how well do you think that enabled me to relate to other people? If I had it so figured out, if feelings weren't hard for me to deal with, these other challenges weren't hard, I wasn't even aware that I was having all these things, right? Well, so that's another wonderful thing about this practice, this great heart practice. And the nice thing about it, though, that I keep harping on is it's so integrated. I'm not saying don't do koan practice. Koan practice was huge in my life. It's incredibly helpful. I go back to koans all the time. But now, integrating everything else in via this great heart approach helps me also integrate in koans and koan study too, to the fabric of this life as well. Okay. I want to share because I want to have time for discussion. And by the way, I don't see anybody raising their hands, so I apologize for talking so much. But anyway, yeah, thanks, Ron. So, but one of the things I want to share too is a teacher that I absolutely love is Uchiyama Roshi, and I know a lot of you are familiar with Uchiyama's teachings, and I know Joan Halifax one time referred to him as a brown rice Roshi. I mean, he's just like the real deal, not fancy, not trying to be something he's not. He's just the real deal. Fortunately, like our Roshis. But she just made that expression for him, even though she'd never actually met him. But anyway, one of the things that he talked about, and I'm going to read a quote for a couple of quotes from him, but I think it ties a little bit to what I'm trying to convey. Only he's obviously incredibly more capable of expressing himself. And he says, "Our degree of separation from the reality of life comes as struggling and suffering. Our degree of separation from the reality of life comes as struggling and suffering." And then he says this, he says, "No matter what happens in our lives, there is no real alternative other than to live through it then and there by ourselves. This is an inescapable reality." Okay? So he's telling us, don't disenfranchise part of yourself to the basement, okay? Don't pretend, don't ignore that 5-year-old boy that's still part of our life. Don't ignore the fact that you're really pissed off at your boss, okay? And just push that away and pretend, no, I'm a Zen student, I don't get angry anymore. No, feel it, okay? Our first Bodhisattva vow, let's receive all creations. That's part of the creations. Let's receive it, okay? We don't have to act out. No, we can just deeply feel that energy in our body, okay? And then he says this, after saying no matter what happens in our lives, there's no real alternative other than to live through it then and there by ourselves. This is inescapable reality. He says, I cannot imagine anything more important in our lives than to completely resolve ourselves to the absolute nature of truth. To what truth? The fact, like he just said, that there's no real alternative other than to live through it then and there, whatever we're going through. That's it. I can't do it for you. Hakuju can't do it for me. Hoen can't do it for me. Shishin Roshi, Roshi Shinko, they can't deal with my issues for me, right? any more than they could, get on a treadmill and run 10 miles, and then that would benefit me as if I'd run the 10 miles. It's, we got to do our own thing. We got to deal with this stuff ourselves, okay? And we have a wonderful Sangha, and it's incredibly supportive to be with all of you. I'm not taking anything away from that. It's, arguably the most important of the three jewels. But the point is that at some level, as we deal with things, we hear a lot about, well, when we die, we're going to be alone. We'll do that. I don't know about that. I haven't done that yet. But as far as these other experiences and experiencing in our life, nobody can do that for me. Nobody can do that for me. And, I mentioned before that, I work in hospice. And in hospice, I'm obviously around a lot of people that are at the end of their life. And it's easy in hospice to think that, well, I can make it better for them. I can fix it for them. I can guide them through this or whatever. I can't. I can't. All I can do is be there, metaphorically holding their hand and maybe actually physically holding their hand. That's it. That's a lot. That's a whole lot if I can really be there, if I can really bring my whole self to that, right? If I can really be there. And that's another opportunity for this Great Heart Way practice, to really feel what I'm feeling when I'm with that person that's right near the end of their life, right? Or maybe they're passing just at that moment, whatever it is, that I can really be there, not push that away. So I guess I'm going to look at my notes here a bit, because I want to be sure when I get wound up, sometimes I don't cover certain things that I want to. One thing is that I didn't mention, it's a really, really important point, is doing the Great Heart Way practice very sincerely and throwing ourselves into it. We don't just feel these things and experience them viscerally in a gapless manner, but at some point, we can experience a real profound stillness as we completely are thrown into the reality of experiencing these feelings in a gapless way, right? And I think, at least for me, sometimes it can be easier to deeply feel and throw myself into my feelings, just be those feelings, than it is even to just observe thoughts kind of floating by and things. But I can just really, I can just really experience this stuff. And then what am I left with as I do, right? And for some of you who worked on some of these koans like this, stopping the ringing of the distant temple bell and some of these things, this idea of when I can really throw myself into these feelings, and what's really left, right? And that's for each of us to experience. But it's certainly clarifying, and it's certainly extremely impactful. So I just want to make this point, and then I'll be quiet and hopefully get some questions. But this Great Heart Way, it's not an add-on, okay? It's not I can do this in addition to that. I mean, yeah, it does. It integrates with everything. But all I'm saying is, I don't want people to think that, because like I did, that, if I get time someday, I'll work on the Great Heart thing. Do what you want. I'm not telling you how to practice. You're already practicing, and you're doing it perfectly for who you are. We're all doing the best we can. But at the same time, I do want to say that it's, I think it's worth taking a look at, and maybe taking a look at even deeper, and it complements so seamlessly any other kind of practice, whether it's shikantaza, whether it's koan study, whether it's watching our breath, whether it's counting our breath, whatever it is, whether it's samu. I mean, because it is our life. That's what this Great Heart thing is. It's just dealing with our life as it comes at us. And again, I get that, what's really coming at whom, okay. But the point is, it's dealing with thusness, okay? It's dealing with this. And can help us be able to be so helpful in this world with others. Be kind, super kind to ourselves, compassionate with ourselves, absolutely first and foremost, to be able to do it. Then we can be there for others, right? And then we can be there and be there with a kinship and a seamlessness that most people don't get to enjoy, right? Okay.